Imagine this. Your son carries another man's last name, and the world can't stop debating about it. That's exactly what just happened with Ciara, Russell Wilson, and Future, and trust me, the internet is losing its mind. They say a last name is just letters on paper, but what if it's the symbol of who really shows up for you? That's the storm surrounding Ciara, Russell Wilson, and Future's son right now. Is Russell Wilson ruining his legacy, or rewriting what it really means to be a man? This question has divided the internet after Ciara made one bold move with her son's last name. Why are people angrier about a child's name change than about a father not showing up? Let's break down the double standard at the heart of the Ciara, Russell, Future drama. So here's the big story. Ciara has officially added Russell Wilson's last name to her oldest son, who is also Future's child. That means little Future now carries the name Wilburn Wilson. Now, this isn't about Russell's performance on the field. Even though he's currently playing quarterback for the Giants, the headlines have nothing to do with football. What's going viral is the family decision surrounding Ciara's son. This change is more than just paperwork. It shows how much Ciara and Russell have embraced being a blended family. They've been together nearly a decade, and this name shift is a clear statement. Their eldest son is fully a part of the Wilson household, even though Russell didn't legally adopt him. Interestingly, the name change actually happened a while ago, but people are only just now catching on. And, of course, the internet has opinions. Some folks are outraged. They're saying things like, "Man, if my ex tried that, I'd lose it," or "She's wild for doing this." But if you look closely, a lot of that outrage is louder than the concern over Future himself not being around regularly. That's the part people don't want to admit. Many critics are far more upset about a child's last name being hyphenated than they are about the father not being present. Think about that for a second. The outrage isn't over the absence of consistency, love, or involvement. Instead, the firestorm is over letters on a piece of paper. And that says a lot about where priorities really lie. It reveals something deeper about how selective people can be in who they defend. If they admire someone's music, if they vibe with a celebrity's image, or if they feel connected to their brand, integrity suddenly doesn't matter. Responsibility doesn't matter. The simple act of being present and accountable gets ignored because star power overshadows accountability. It's a pattern we see time and time again. Fans will twist themselves into knots defending people they like, even when the facts point another way. This particular situation gained even more traction because of a viral clip circulating on Black social media. In the video, a man bluntly argued that Russell Wilson is ruining his legacy by raising another man's child. His reasoning was straightforward, even if harsh. Fewer men are choosing marriage in today's world, and when they do, many steer clear of women who already have children. In his eyes, Russell was making a choice that modern men wouldn't and shouldn't make. The argument struck a nerve because it tapped into long-standing conversations about family, masculinity, and legacy. On the surface, it sounds like a simple critique of Russell's decision. But dig a little deeper, and you'll see that it's really about shifting cultural values and the ways men and women view relationships in 2025. Marriage rates have indeed declined significantly in recent decades. More men are hesitant to commit, citing financial strain, fear of divorce, or a lack of trust. And when children from past relationships are involved, many men see it as added responsibility without guaranteed reward. So when Russell chose to not only marry Ciara but also embrace her son as his own, he positioned himself in direct contrast to the narrative many men live by. To critics, that looks like weakness. To supporters, it looks like strength. But here's where the conversation becomes more complex. What does legacy really mean? For some, legacy is about bloodlines, names, and ensuring that their biological children carry forward their identity. For others, legacy is measured in the impact you make on people's lives, regardless of biology. Russell's actions challenge the traditional definition. By stepping into a fatherly role, he's showing that legacy can also mean shaping a child's life with love, guidance, and stability. That, for many, is far more powerful than simply passing on a last name. Still, the criticism he faces highlights an uncomfortable truth. In many communities, especially within Black culture, there's a tension between idealized masculinity and the lived realities of family dynamics. Men are often expected to lead, provide, and protect, but what happens when that leadership requires embracing a child who isn't biologically yours? For some, it feels like a compromise of pride. For others, it's the purest expression of manhood. The debate around Russell and Ciara underscores this cultural divide. On one hand, you have people who believe he is setting the standard for what a supportive, committed partner looks like, someone who steps up without hesitation. On the other hand, critics argue that he's diminishing himself, that he's too willing to put another man's child before his own interests, and that in doing so, he's giving up part of his legacy. But the question remains, what legacy is Future leaving behind if his son barely sees him? Fans quick to defend Future rarely bring up the absence, the inconsistency, or the lack of presence. They zero in on a hyphenated last name while ignoring the reality of day-to-day parenting. That silence speaks volumes. If you claim legacy is tied to a last name, but you're not building a bond with your child, then what does that name even represent? Supporters of Russell see him as rewriting the script. They argue that he's showing men everywhere that masculinity doesn't have to be about ego or appearances. It can also be about commitment, care, and making choices that prioritize family over pride. To them, Russell isn't ruining his legacy, he's expanding it. His legacy isn't just about touchdowns or contracts, it's about being a role model for his kids, both biological and step. At the same time, critics aren't entirely off base. Their concerns about marriage rates and men's reluctance to take on responsibility in blended families reflect a very real trend. Society is shifting and traditional family structures are evolving. Not every man is willing or able to step into the role Russell has taken. That doesn't make them villains, but it does highlight the tension between personal desires and communal expectations. Ultimately, this debate isn't really about Ciara, Russell, or Future. It's about what we value most in family and relationships. Is legacy about the name you pass down, or is it about the love and presence you give? Is being a real man about protecting your pride, or about putting a child's needs first? These questions don't have easy answers, but Russell and Ciara's choices have forced people to confront them head-on. At the end of the day, the outrage over a hyphenated last name seems small compared to the bigger picture. A child is being raised in a stable, loving environment by adults who are committed to his well-being. That should be worth more than pride, more than ego, and certainly more than the letters on his birth certificate. Names matter, yes, but presence, consistency, and care matter so much more. But not everyone agrees. Others pushed back, saying Ciara and Future were in a real relationship, not just a fling. They point out that calling her ran through makes no sense. She dated Future seriously, and before him, she had other public relationships with people like Bow Wow and 50 Cent. But now she's married, raising her kids, and making different choices. To many, that looks like growth, not proof that she's damaged. And here's the question nobody seems to ask. When was the last time Future was seen spending quality time with his son? If he's not showing up as a father, why does the last name matter so much? Some argue that if a dad isn't consistently present, the child shouldn't have to carry his name just for legacy's sake. That's why many women are praising Russell, calling him the definition of a real man for stepping up and treating Future's son like his own. But of course, critics twist that too, saying that being a real man shouldn't mean putting yourself last in someone else's situation. Still, at the end of the day, this name change highlights a bigger truth. Names carry weight, but presence matters more. Legacy isn't in a surname. It's in the love, time, and responsibility you give to your child. The big news making waves right now? Ciara has officially added Russell Wilson's last name to her oldest son, who also happens to be rapper Future's child. That means little Future now goes by Wilburn Wilson. This headline has nothing to do with Russell's performance on the football field. Yes, he's currently playing quarterback for the New York Giants, but his stats aren't what the internet is buzzing about. Instead, the focus is on family, specifically, the decision that highlights how deeply Russell and Ciara have embraced their blended household. After nearly a decade of marriage, this move sends a powerful message. Their eldest son is fully part of the Wilson family, even without a formal adoption. On the surface, adding a hyphenated last name might seem like a small change, just a few letters on paper. But in reality, it represents something bigger. It shows that family isn't only defined by biology. It's about love, presence, and commitment. By carrying both names, the child is tied not just to his biological father's identity, but also to the stepfather who has been consistently present, providing care, stability, and guidance for years. What's interesting is that this legal change didn't just happen yesterday. It was reportedly made some time ago, but only recently caught the public's attention. Once the news spread, the internet did what it always does, explode with opinions. For some, it's seen as a natural and loving step forward for a blended family. For others, it feels like a controversial decision, almost as if Sierra is erasing Future's role as the biological father. The backlash has been loud. Social media users expressed outrage, with comments along the lines of, "If my ex ever tried that, I'd lose my mind," or "She's crossing the line." Critics argue that no matter how involved Russell may be, the last name belongs to Future, and that changing it is disrespectful to him. But here's where things get complicated. While people are quick to criticize Sierra and Russell for the name change, far fewer are willing to address the elephant in the room: Future's inconsistent presence in his son's life. The outrage over a hyphenated last name seems louder than the conversation about the biological father not being regularly around. That imbalance raises a bigger question. Why do people place more value on preserving a name than on prioritizing a child's emotional stability and daily well-being? It speaks to the selective way fans defend celebrities. If they admire someone's music or persona, they'll turn a blind eye to shortcomings in their personal life. Integrity and accountability often take a back seat to popularity. Future remains a celebrated artist, and because of that, some fans are quick to excuse his absence while attacking Russell's involvement. The situation also sparked wider debate thanks to a viral video circulating on Black social media. In it, a man argued that Russell Wilson is ruining his legacy by raising another man's child. His reasoning was blunt: marriage rates are declining, and many men today are reluctant to commit to women who already have children. To him, Russell's decision to marry Sierra and take on the role of a father figure makes little sense in a culture where men are already pulling away from those responsibilities. The clip struck a chord because it touched on sensitive issues: marriage, masculinity, and family structure. On one side, some men see Russell as a symbol of weakness, sacrificing his pride and legacy to take on a role that isn't biologically his. On the other side, many see him as the definition of strength, choosing love, loyalty, and responsibility over ego. But what exactly is legacy? For some, legacy means passing down a name, protecting bloodlines, and ensuring your biological children carry your identity. For others, legacy is about impact, about the lives you shape, the values you instill, and the consistency you bring into a child's world. Russell's role in Sierra's son's life challenges the traditional definition. By showing up every day, supporting his stepson as his own, and creating a stable household, he's building a legacy that can't be reduced to a last name. Critics, however, aren't entirely without a point. It's true that in today's society, blended families face unique challenges. Not every man is willing to embrace another man's child, and the reluctance reflects broader shifts in how relationships and marriage are approached. But that's what makes Russell's choice so noteworthy. He's going against the grain, prioritizing his family above cultural expectations of pride and manhood. Meanwhile, supporters are quick to flip the script. They ask the questions critics avoid. When was the last time Future was seen spending quality time with his son? How often is he present in his child's daily life? If the answer is rarely, then why should a surname alone hold so much weight? A name without presence doesn't build memories, character, or trust. It's love, time, and responsibility that truly shape a child. For many women, this is why Russell is praised as a real man. To them, being a real man isn't about ego or legacy. It's about stepping up, doing the work, and showing unconditional love. Critics twist this by saying a real man shouldn't put himself second in someone else's story, but that perspective overlooks a key truth. Raising a child, regardless of biology, is an act of courage and care. At the end of the day, this debate goes far beyond Sierra, Russell, and Future. It forces us to rethink what family really means in the modern world. Is a child's worth tied to the name they carry, or to the love and stability they experience? Does legacy live in a surname, or in the impact a parent, biological or not, leaves behind? The outrage over a hyphenated name may dominate the headlines, but the bigger picture is clear. A child is being raised in a secure, loving environment by adults who are present and committed. That, more than anything, is what should matter. Names carry history, yes, but true legacy is built through presence, care, and consistency. Funny thing is, the name change didn't just happen yesterday. It was filed a while back, quietly, without any big announcement or flashy headlines. Only recently did the public catch wind of it, and once the story surfaced, it instantly became a talking point across social media platforms. The reactions were exactly what you'd expect: loud, passionate, and completely split down the middle. On one side, you have people who see Ciara's move as bold and empowering. To them, adding Russell's name reflects the reality of their family dynamic. For almost 10 years, Russell has been a present, loving, and consistent figure in Ciara's son's life. He's been there for the milestones, the everyday routines, and the moments that truly matter in shaping a child. So, for supporters, the hyphen isn't just a cosmetic change, it's a reflection of who's showing up. On the other side, you have critics who are furious. Their responses sound almost rehearsed. If my ex ever tried that, I'd flip out. That's disrespectful to the real father. To them, no matter how involved Russell may be, the last name belongs to Future and only Future. In their eyes, changing or even adding to it undermines his place as the biological dad. But here's where the irony kicks in. The outrage over a few letters on paper seems to outweigh the bigger issue, Future's actual presence, or lack thereof, in his son's daily life. You'll hear people yelling about respect, legacy, and pride, yet very few stop to ask the most obvious question: when was the last time Future was consistently there for his child? Rather than pouring time and energy into a child who doesn't carry his bloodline. In their eyes, legacy is strictly about biology, about your name, your genes, your lineage being carried forward without dilution. But to supporters, Russell's actions redefine what legacy truly means. They see his decision not as a mistake, but as a reflection of strength, loyalty, and maturity. To them, legacy is about the lives you touch and the values you leave behind, not just about a surname etched on a birth certificate. By showing up for Ciara's son, Russell is proving that fatherhood isn't limited to biology. It's about commitment, love, and presence. This clash of perspectives reveals the tension in how people view family and masculinity today. On one side are those who hold tightly to tradition, where a man's worth is tied to bloodlines and pride. On the other are those who believe that real manhood is about responsibility, compassion, and the courage to step up, even when it's not easy. The debate also exposes how much weight society places on image. Future's legacy, for many, is tied to his music and fame, so fans are quick to protect his name, even when his actions don't reflect consistent fatherhood. Russell, meanwhile, faces criticism for doing the very thing many absent fathers fail to do: show up. At the heart of it, the question remains, what defines a man's legacy? Is it the name a child carries, or the love and presence that shape who that child becomes? Russell's story forces us to rethink that answer. But plenty of others clapped back, saying Ciara and Future weren't some casual fling, they were in a real relationship. Calling her ran through doesn't hold weight. Yes, she dated other public figures before, but now she's married, raising her kids, and building a different life. That looks like maturity, not damage. And here's the real question: when was the last time Future spent actual time with his son? If he isn't consistently there, why should his last name matter more than the people who are showing up every day? Some even argue that legacy isn't about a surname at all. It's about presence, love, and effort. That's why many women are praising Russell, calling him a true example of a man who stepped up. Critics push back, saying that being a real man shouldn't mean coming second in someone else's story. But still, the fact remains, Russell is there, Future isn't. At the end of the day, this is bigger than a hyphen. It's a reminder that a name carries history, but it doesn't raise a child. The real legacy lives in the love, time, and responsibility you put in, not just the name on the birth certificate.